There's been some discussion surrounding the NBA about adding 2 expansion teams to the league. The 2 cities that are the frontrunners in getting these 2 teams are Las Vegas, who already have a WNBA team, and Seattle, who after being relocated to OKC in 2008, has long been considered for a return to the NBA. So today I decided to add both these teams to the NBA in Hoopland. We'll be starting out in the 2025-2026 season, the one that just wrapped up after the Knicks of all teams won the finals. I'll be taking over the Supersonics, as 1, I don't really like the idea of Las Vegas having an NBA team, and 2, Seattle is the closest team to my boys in Portland. I'll keep this rebuild fairly realistic just to give myself a challenge, and our goal for this video is just to win a championship. And before we start, these are the credits for the people who made the leagues I'm using and made the assets that I used to make these 2 expansion teams. Shout out to them. I found all of these in the Hoopland Discord, so make sure to join that. And without further ado, let us begin. Year 1 started in the 2025-2026 season. I'm actually using an older version of Grego's NBA roster, so it matches how the teams looked when the season started back in October last year. We did the expansion draft where we had the first pick over Las Vegas. I decided to just take the best player available, DeJounte Murray. Yes, he's recovering from an ACL tear, but he would be a solid starting point guard for the first few years of the save after he recovers, so we'll just have to compensate by picking up another point guard as he recovers. Las Vegas took Yusuf Nurkic and Terrence Mann with their picks. Our second pick was a no-brainer for me, as I selected Gary Payton the second. Is it because of his dad? Yes, but am I also gonna get rid of most of my expansion draft players in the future anyways? Also yes. I just thought it would be cool if I picked them up. For our third pick though, I did need to draft that starting point guard that I needed while waiting for Murray to recover, so I took Colin Gillespie from the Suns. Las Vegas takes Jordan Clarkson and the guy that was drafted before Luka Doncic with their picks, and afterwards I thought it would be funny to take some players away from OKC, so I took Agent Duke Dennis and Aaron Wiggins with our 4th and 5th pick. Las Vegas then selected Trey Jones and Dennis Schroeder. Now back on the clock, I needed some forwards, so I took Jake LaRavia from LA and Corey Kispert from the Hawks. Las Vegas drafted Thomas Sorber and rookie Johnny Furphy, who was responsible for that one nasty photo from the Summer League. I needed another center, so I drafted Musa Diabate from the Hornets. Afterwards, I wanted to get another guard, so I took Keon Ellis from the Kings. Las Vegas then selects Carter Bryant and Jalen Wells. With our 10th and 11th picks, I selected Dante DiVincenzo from Minnesota and the guy who was waived from Philly from Mac McClung. For their last picks, Las Vegas took Nikola Topic and Yang Hansen, and for our last pick, I took another player from the Suns and selected Grayson Allen. The draft was now complete, so it was time to take a look at our roster. Dante started at point, Payton the second was our shooting guard, Grayson Allen and Corey Kispert started at the forward positions, and Jalen Williams was our starting center. We had a pretty decent team with a mix of younger, developing players with some needing experience from older veterans. We were also being coached by former Sonic player Nate McMillan. Las Vegas definitely selected the more older and experienced players in the draft: Schroeder, Clarkson, Bagley, Nurkic, a lot of names that have been in the league before, but also some rookies that they took from teams who decided not to protect them. They also had Mike D'Antoni coaching them, who previously coached teams like the Knicks and Rockets before he was out of a job in this save. Overall, both expansion teams looked okay, but obviously the first few years of the save is going to be rough. Our first win of the save actually came in our first game against the Pelicans, as we won 139-112. We met the Venom just a little bit later in our 5th game of the season, where we won by over 21 points thanks to a pretty good game from Payne in the second. But by our next meeting, it was clear that it was the Venom that had the better start. In our 27th game of the season, Las Vegas won by over 36 points, and Las Vegas had 6 more wins than us at this point in the year. By the All-Star break, we sat at the bottom of the West with only 14 wins, 3 behind the Venom and 14. The 2 teams met one last time in our 69th game of the season, where Las Vegas took home the win by 3 points, which came from a Jake LaRavia miss and a last-second shot from Marvin Bagley. By the end of the season, both teams were at the bottom of the West. Of course, this was expected, but the Sonics had a worse record than Las Vegas by over 3 wins. Murray recovered just in time for the last 10 games of the season, where he averaged 15, 4, and 5, which is pretty good, and hopefully that means he'll lead us to a better record next year. As for the rest of the team, Grayson Allen averaged 14 points, Wiggins 13, LaRavia 11, Jalen Williams averaged 9, 9, and 1. Dante, our starting point guard, averages 12 points, and other bench players such as Gillespie, Kispert, and Payne II all averaged double-digit point tallies. As for Las Vegas, pretty similar story. Looks like they picked up Chris Paul, who was out of the job after he was waived by the Clippers. Wells, Furphy, Mann all averaged double-digit point tallies, and Jordan Clarkson was their top scorer, averaging 13 points across the season. Instead of the Knicks winning, OKC took home the chip for this year, making it back-to-back titles as Shea wins Finals MVP after sweeping the Cavs, who actually analytically won the series. Overall, it's an okay first season. There weren't any expectations for this team. This was around the level an expansion team should be. We just have to hope that it's only up from here. Year 2 began and I started things off by accepting Champagne's team option. We have quite a few contracts to sort out, plus some expiring deals, so I'll have to take care of it once the draft is completed. We're projected to go 2nd overall behind Brooklyn. Las Vegas is projected to go 3rd just behind us. Vegas falls 2 places down and gets the 5th pick. Brooklyn drops down to the 3rd pick, and Memphis goes all the way up from 8th to get the 2nd pick, meaning that we get the 1st pick. Now, the 2 top prospects in this draft are Darren Peterson and AJ DeBonta. You can't go wrong with either one, but I prefer Peterson as he can be our scoring guard who can also put up stats in other areas strengths, like on the defense and on playmaking, so I decided to go with him with the first pick. Memphis takes the Bonsa, Brooklyn takes Mikael Brown Jr., Portland, who has Toronto's pick, Jeff Boozer. Las Vegas is left with the 5th pick. They selected Greek player Neoklis Abdalas. For our 2nd round pick, as we already picked up Peterson, I decided to just get a forward, so I drafted Michael Perez from Baylor with the 34th pick. I signed both of our rookies on, and it was now time to deal with our contract situation. Despite the free agency class actually looking quite decent, I decided to hold off until I see a few more higher rated players in the future. I went ahead and signed Gillespie for a deal worth $15 million for 4 years, Ellis for a deal worth $11 million for 4 years, and Payne II for $11 million for only 2 years, as he already started regressing and the cap space would be better put towards signing a starting free agency. All of them accepted our deals, and it was now time to extend some contracts. I extended Diabate with a deal worth $11 million for 4 years and Laravia with a deal worth $10 million for 4 years. As for Dante and Champagny, however, since we just drafted players in their position in Peterson and Perez, they don't really have a place in this team in the future, so I won't be giving them new deals. Our roster for the year 2 looked pretty decent. DeJounte Murray, now healthy, was our starting point guard. Our draft picks in Peterson and Perez started at the 2 and 3. Laravia was now a starting 4, and Jalen Williams was still our starting center. Our bench was pretty much the same as last year. The Venom's roster was also quite similar to last year. They pretty much had every player from the year before besides Abdallas, their 1st round pick, and Koa Pete, their 2nd round pick, who both were already on the starting 5. We started the season losing 5 games in a row before finally winning our 6th game of the season against the Kings. We met the Venom for the first time this season in our 53rd game of the year. We won by 19 points. Now that I'm recording this, I think I missed one game between us and the Venom, as we're supposed to meet each other 3 times in a season. Our other game against them came in the 72nd game of the year, where we won with the final score being 127-94. By the end of the season, we improved our record by 1 win, while Las Vegas regressed down to just 11 wins. Peterson does well in his rookie season, averaging 19-7-7. Murray, in his first year as our starting point guard, averages 15-6-6. Our other rookie in Perez, not much to be expected from him. He is a 2nd round pick, averages 6 points, 4 rebounds, and 0.6 assists. Other players like Allen, Riggins, Laravia, and Kismet average over double-digit point tallies. The Venom's 1st round pick and Abdallas averages 9 points, 5 rebounds, and 4 assists. They have 3 players in the starting 5 that average over double-digit points: Jalen Wells, Johnny Furphy, and Koa Pete, who outperformed Abdallas despite being a 2nd round pick. Carter Bryant was the only other player to average double-digit points. There's also 2 players on their roster who didn't even play a single game all season. And it also looks like their previous year's top scorer in Jordan Clarkson left the team. Peterson gets into the all-rookie first team. Las Vegas actually has 2 players on this squad, with Abdallas and Pete making the team, but it's our rookie in Darren Peterson who wins the Rookie of the Year award. In the playoffs, the Lakers prevented an OKC 3-peat, with Luka winning Finals MVP after beating the Bucks in 5. So overall, it was a solid year with some improvements. Peterson is well on his way to becoming a superstar, so our focus in these next few seasons is just to surround them with players that will hopefully transform this team into a contender. I started off year 3 by releasing both Dante and Champagny from the team. I did plan on getting a new center, but I still wanted to extend Jalen's contract to get some depth in the center position. We were projected to go 3rd in the draft, but we jumped up to 2nd behind Las Vegas, who retained their position. The Venom was definitely going to take the highest ranked prospect, which was Jasper Johnson, a shooting guard from Kentucky. I decided to just take the next best player available, who was Meyo Sayoye. As I said earlier, I wanted a center, so it was a perfect pick. With our 2nd round pick, I didn't really need anyone in particular, so I selected David Castillo from Kansas. I signed both of our rookies on and also gave extensions to Williams and Murray. I wasn't going to give one to Payne II, and despite averaging pretty decent stats in our first 2 seasons, I also wasn't going to give one to Grayson Allen. So now going into year 3, our roster remained pretty much the same. Dante and Champagny were the only ones to leave, and Sayoye was now a starting center. The Venom's roster also didn't change much. They had a pretty good backcourt consisting of their last 2 draft picks and a solid list of players such as Furphy and Koa Pete. We started off the year besting our record from the year before, as instead of losing our first 5 games, we lost our first 7 games. Our first win of the season came in our 8th game of the year in an overtime win against the Pacers, thanks to a triple-double from Peterson. Our first meeting with Las Vegas came in the 37th game of the year, as we won by over 11 points. We met again in the 54th game of the year, taking home yet another win, this time by only 2 points, thanks to a 33-point performance from Peterson, who was so close to another triple-double. By the All-Star break, though, it was clear that we were much worse than we were the year before. At this point of the season, we only had 7 wins compared to 16 last season. The Venom sat at the 14th seed with 13 wins. Peterson, though, actually made the All-Star team as a reserve, so that's surprising. We met Las Vegas one last time in the 75th game of the year, taking home another win. We ended up beating Las Vegas to the 14th seed with 17 wins, but it was still a disappointing year compared to last season, considering we had 21 wins the season before. In his sophomore year, Peterson took a massive step up, becoming an All-Star and averaging 25, 10, and 8. Murray's another solid year as a starting point guard, 15, 6, and 6. Perez, slight improvement, his scoring jumps up to 8, and he's also averaging around 6 rebounds. Corey Kispert takes Laravia's spot at the 4 and averages 15. Maya has a pretty slow start, 5 points, 7 rebounds, and as for the rest of the team, Diabate and Williams has some good averages. Castillo has a decent rookie year. Laravia averages 14 from the bench, and it looks like Payne II didn't play a single game all year, and Gillespie only appeared in 1 game. So yeah, they're already starting to pack their bags. On the Venom, Abdallas improves, averaging 11, 6, and 6. Jalen Wells starts over Jasper Johnson, averaging 15 points and 5 rebounds. Another solid year from Furphy, and Johnson, the number 1 pick, averages 9 points, 1 rebound and 0.7 assists per game, so he maybe wasn't the best pick for Las Vegas. Mayo gets into the all-rookie team and also wins Rookie of the Year, meaning that we're one of the few teams in NBA history to draft consecutive Rookie of the Year winners. Philly wins this year's ring as VJ Edgecombe wins Finals MVP in 7. It looks like Fox is still with the Spurs at this point, so year 3 ended up being a slight disappointment. We regressed, but maybe with a few more moves, we can turn this team into a winner. Our current players will only continue to improve, like Mayo, Perez, especially Peterson. What a season he's had, already an all-star, and it definitely won't be long until he becomes one of the league's best players. Year 4 began, and the first thing I did was accept both the team options on Kispert and Wiggins. I simulated the draft lottery, and the Pacers won the first pick. We jumped Las Vegas for the third pick. Both the Pacers and Bulls took the top 2 prospects, so I decided to just take the best player available, which was Marcus Burton, a point guard from Notre Dame. For our second round pick, I wanted a player who can fill in for both as a guard and a forward, so I drafted Davion Hanna from Alabama. I signed both of our rookies on and then released both Payne II and Grayson Allen. We had 3 players on expiring deals, but I only gave 1 extension to Corey Kispert as both Gillespie and Wiggins were getting older. I had just drafted players in their positions, so the cap space that they take up could be used to sign a star in the future. Knowing that though, I only gave Kispert a 1-year deal, as I needed some cap space just in case a star would show up in free agency next season. I went into the free agent market seeing who I could pick up. There were some star players, but they were a little too old to fit in our timeline, so I decided to go sign Philly's Jared McCain. He's a highly rated player that can create some shots and was quite young at the age of 24, so the contract won't be that expensive for the time being. The most expensive deal that was being offered to him was $16 million from the Clippers, so I offered him $18 million for 4 years, which was enough to make him a Supersonic. So going into the new season, our roster remained largely the same. Some names were out the door, and McCain was now a starting point guard. Las Vegas still basically remained the same. They just keep adding on players from the draft while keeping core players like Abdallas, Wells, Furphy, and Pete on board, and it also looks like their number 1 pick in Jasper Johnson isn't even starting, which is quite a shame. We started off the season in what I can only call a tradition at this point, as we lost multiple games in a row yet again. This was our lowest count yet though, as we lost only 4 games in a row before winning by 2 points against Cleveland. We met Las Vegas in our 34th game of the year, pulling off yet another win by just 2 points as the final score was 112 to 110. 13 games later, we played again, this time winning by 6 points, and we actually played all of our games together before the All-Star break, as we faced off Las Vegas again in game 50, but this time the Venom took home the win by quite a margin. By the All-Star break, they were ahead of us by 1 win as they sat in the 14th seed. By the end of the season, we slipped all the way down to the bottom of the West as we finished with 17 wins yet again. The Venom won 20 games and finished with the 15th seed, and I'm quite disappointed. I thought that after getting McCain and some more prospects, we'd at least be able to improve on our record, but no, 17 wins again. McCain did well in his first year in Seattle, averaging 22 points. Peterson, yet more improvements, averaging 26, 9, and 10. Perez, not much improvement, but still quite consistent. Kispert, I'm surprised actually. He maintains his scoring average, so I might consider signing him onto a longer deal. Laravia is the only other player in this team to average double-digit points, and on the other hand, Las Vegas had quite a bit of player scoring. Abdallas getting better, Jasper Johnson finally breaking into the starting lineup, Murphy, Koa Pete, Jalen Wells, and Carter Bryant off the bench. So after all of that, Davion Hanna, our second-round pick, actually makes the all-rookie team for this season, which is quite surprising. And speaking of second-round picks, our draft pick from the year before, David Castillo, actually requested a trade mid-season. I usually just ignore the messages when I send through games, so I completely missed this. Shame, really, as I would have liked Castillo to be a strong player off the bench, but it looks like we'll have to move him on next season. The Spurs return to the top, winning this year's title behind the Finals MVP campaign from Wemby, beating the Memphis Grizzlies led by AG DeBonta in 6. So yet again, another disappointing year. I really hope we could have improved during this campaign, so hopefully next season will be different. Year 5 began, and the first thing I did was accept the team option on both Peterson and Perez. They were integral to this team, and they were not going anywhere. I gave them extensions, but not to other players who were also on an expiring deal. The free agents of this offseason were stacked, so I needed some cap space. We were 5th in the draft ahead of Las Vegas in 6, but honestly, I didn't want to have another prospect to wait on, so I decided to package those picks with David Castillo for a trade. I wanted to get a forward, so I went after Caleb Wilson from the Hornets. Charlotte picked him 14th overall back in the 2026 draft, and looking at his stats, he's obviously a very good player. I sent Castillo, this year's picks, and Keon Ellis to complete the deal. Now that I had a forward, I went after a guard in free agency. The player I landed on was Indiana's Tyrese Halliburton. The Clippers were offering him $26 million, so I just offered him the most amount of money I could on the deal for 4 years with a player option, which he accepted. This team now looked better than ever. Our backcourt was stacked. Wilson fit in perfectly with Perez in the wings, and Mayo, while still developing, will eventually develop into a top center. We also had a pretty deep bench and had enough cap space to give our stars big extensions in the future. The only thing that stood in the way of that though was Murray's contract and Corey Kispert. Now that I had both Hallie and Marcus Burton, Murray's $26 million didn't look as appealing. I am more lenient towards Kispert though, as he averages pretty good stats from the bench, so I'll give him this season so I could decide whether or not it's worth keeping him on. And if you're wondering about Las Vegas, same story, they're basically the same. We finally broke the tradition of losing multiple games to start off our season, as we won our first game against the Heat. We met Las Vegas in our 24th game of the year, but surprisingly we lost by over 26 points. We did win our next game against them though, 118 to 105, thanks to yet another Peterson triple triple-double. By the All-Star break, we sat at the 7th seed with a record of 30 wins and 25 losses. Over 12 wins more than Las Vegas, who were down in the 13th seed. Both Halliburton and Peterson were All-Star reserves, and Halliburton also took part in the 3-point contest. Now again, I missed our other game with Las Vegas again in this recording, but we finished with a record 12 wins higher than Las Vegas. Props to them though, it's their best finish so far. We clinched the playoffs with the 6th seed, just narrowly avoiding the play-in. Hallie has a good first year for us, averaging 23-5-9. Peterson, another good year, 25-8-9. Wilson, good first year for us, averaging 15. Paris finally breaks into the double-digit tallies as he averaged 10 points per game across the year. McCain averages 11 from the bench with only 15 minutes on the court, and Kispert still holding up well, averaging 11. Like last season, I also missed another trade request, this time from Marcus Burden, our top 3 pick from the 2028 draft. Now, I probably should have seen this coming as I signed Halliburton. I was planning on making him our second choice point guard after Murray, so it looks like we'll have to trade him next season. Peterson makes the all-defensive first team as well as the all-NBA first team, and then we head off to our first playoff series of the save against the 3rd-seeded Portland Trail Blazers, who have a starting lineup of Jordan Poole, Elijah Arenas, Cam Boozer, Brandon Ingram, and Donovan Clingan. Pretty stacked team. Honestly, I would kill for this team in real life, so this will definitely be a tough first playoff series for us. We lost game 1 by 14 points. Cam Boozer scores 33 points for the Blazers. Hallie's our player of the game, getting 18 assists. Peterson in his playoff debut scores 30 points. Game 2 wasn't much better though, as we lost by 5 points despite 33 from Peterson. We head back to Seattle for game 3, where we do manage to get a win by quite a large margin, 152-135. Hallie scores 38 and gets 16 assists. Peterson gets a 34-point double-double. Both Wilson and Mayo get some double-doubles for themselves, and overall, it was just a great game all around. We carry this form into game 4, where we secure a win and tie the series up 2-2. We go back to Portland with a chance to take the lead of the series, but we get blown out by 40 points in game 5. We head back to Seattle for game 6, facing elimination, but unfortunately, in our first playoff series, we do fall in 6 as Portland wins the game and moves on to the second round. They actually ended up making it all the way to the finals, losing to Philly in 7, so I guess that makes the loss for us a little better. It was a good fight. It shows that we can compete with teams capable of making deep runs. We just need a little more time for our players to develop and maybe a few more moves to strengthen the roster. For the start of year 6, we received news of DeJounte Murray accepting his player option. Too bad, because he wasn't getting a new deal. We accepted Mayo's team option, and afterwards I noticed that Nate McMillan's contract was up. I decided to resign him as we did just have our first winning season at the save, so we probably shouldn't mess with things. This is the first season where we weren't in the lottery, so I decided to just package this year's picks to make some trades. I first decided to trade for a new center. I looked for a younger player who's due for a contract extension worth between 15 to 20 million. Kelal Ware from the Heat was perfect as he was on an expiring deal, plus was pretty highly rated. I sent off Marcus Burden and Jalen Williams so we can clear up some cap space. I then wanted to make another trade to clear up some cap space. I didn't really know what type of player I wanted, so I just packaged DeJounte Murray and Jake LaRavia and went around finding some teams that wanted to make a deal, until I went through the whole league and found out that no one wanted these dudes. So I added on our picks from this year's drafts plus 2 more future first rounders to try and get these dudes off our team. The deal I ended up accepting was one for a 31-year-old Andrew Nembhard from the Pacers, who was also on an expiring deal. Now looking at it, this does look like a pretty bad move, but now that we had some pretty big contracts off, we now had enough cap space to go out and sign a star. I decided to go after Brandon Miller from the Spurs and offered him a deal worth $24 million for 4 years, which he accepted. Afterwards, I gave out extensions to Mayo, Ware, and Diabate, and after all of that, I had one last decision to make before the season started. Corey Kispert has been putting up stats. He's been here from the start, but I think it's time to let him go. Just signed Brandon Miller, and he's going to be a much bigger part of this team than Corey Kispert, so I don't really see the point of him sticking around. So now going into year 6, we have assembled quite the team. We're ranked 3rd overall in the league, and this team definitely looks like a contender. Halliburton, Darren Peterson, Brandon Miller, Caleb Wilson, Kelal Ware, and a pretty stacked bench to go on top of all of that. This was a team that was fully capable of winning 50, maybe even 60 games. Now, comparing that to Las Vegas, their team looked pretty mid and barely changed from last season. We won in our first game against Sacramento, and we also won in our first game against Las Vegas, winning by over 77 points, which beats out that one Memphis OKC game. Our next game against Las Vegas also ended in a sizable gap. By the All-Star break, we held the 3rd best record in the league with 47 wins, behind Spurs out in the West and Philly out in the East. Meanwhile, Las Vegas was down in the 14th seed with 18 wins. At least they're doing better than the Lakers though. Halliburton and Peterson were selected to be All-Stars, and both Miller and Halliburton were chosen to compete in the 3-point contest. By the end of the season, we did fall down to the 3rd seed in the West with the 5th best record of the league. Now, having 64 wins and only finishing as the 3rd seed may seem crazy, but Philly ending the season with 77 wins might also be a little crazy. Just take a look at the starting roster. It's just unfair. On the contrary, Las Vegas finished with their best record of the save so far with 27 wins and was down at 14th in the West. So congratulations to them. Brandon Miller does well in his first year in Seattle, averaging 21-6-4. More good seasons from Halliburton. Peterson, Wilson averages 15 points. Mayo, another solid year, close to averaging a double-double. Scoring is actually pretty spread apart from the whole team. Pretty much everyone got game time except for Diabate Diabate. On the Venom, Avdalas averages 18, 8, and 9. Jasper Johnson doing better, averaging 15 points. Furphy, Koa Pete, Jalen Wells, all still reliable as always, averaging double-digit point tallies. Caleb Wilson gets into the all-defensive first team, partnering Darren Peterson, who also gets into the All-NBA first team. And to round things out, Halliburton averages 11.1 assists per game on his way to becoming this year's assist leader. We face the 6th seed Suns in round 1, who have a starting lineup of Devin Booker, Bryce Ford, Braden Hawthorne, Nate Ament, and Kaman Malauch. Pretty balanced lineup, so we only won game 1 by a little bit, as the final score was 156 to 97 in our favor. A triple-double from Peterson, 30 and 15 from Halliburton, 20 plus points from Miller and Wilson, and a combined 61 points from everyone else. We won game 2 144 to 113 thanks to a Halliburton who won player of the game with 28 points and 12 assists. Miller gets 35, Wilson gets 21, and another dominant performance from the team. Heading over to Phoenix for game 3, we snatch another win with a lead of 23 points. Peterson gets a 32-point double-double. Halliburton, Wilson, and Ware off the bench get their own double-doubles. It was now time to let Phoenix rest easy as we won the next game, sweeping the Suns in 4. It was a dominant run, so hopefully this run of form can be carried over to round 2, where we faced the 7th seeded Mavs. They have a starting lineup of that guy who got blocked by Anunoby in the finals, Darren Pierre Jr., Keyshawn George, Cooper Flagg, and Derek Lively. We won by 31 points at home in game 1. 4 players from our starting 5 get 20 plus points, and Maya grabbed himself a double-double. In game 2, we win by 36 points thanks to a triple-double from Peterson. Halliburton also gets a 35-point double-double. Going over to Dallas for game 3, we snag another win by 21 points. We weren't able to sweep though, as Dallas won in game 4 behind 35 points from Cooper Flagg, but we complete the gentleman sweep back home in Seattle as we win game 5. We are now going into our first Western Conference Finals, and the team that stood in the way towards the finals was the first seeded Spurs. They were definitely a huge hurdle to overcome. Just take a look at this team. Luka Doncic, Michael Brown Jr., Jalen Johnson, Franz Wagner, and Wembanyama. We got humbled in game 1, losing by over 38 points behind a 36-point, 17-assist performance from Tubbs. We lost again in game 2 by 14 points. This time, Michael Brown Jr. stepped up on the Spurs to get their 2 home wins. We head back to Seattle for game 3, where we do manage to snag a win back in the series as we won 124 to 107, behind 29 from Peterson, 20 from Miller, and 34 points from the bench alone. We couldn't carry this form into our next home game though, as the Spurs took a 3-1 lead, winning by game 4 by 8 points. Then, they finished the job in game 5, winning the series and making their way to the finals. The Spurs do end up winning the chip, with Luka getting another finals MVP, winning against Philly, who won 77 games in the regular season. So these guys are probably the biggest frauds in the history of the league. Overall, this was definitely our best season yet. 60 plus wins, a conference finals appearance. We showed just how dominant this team can be across the playoffs, especially in the first 2 rounds, but still, we need a little more time to develop our players and maybe strengthen the bench in order to actually reach the finals, but surely we're closer than ever. I began year 7 by accepting the team option on Davion Hanna. I looked through the free agency list and one name stood out. Just taking a look at the stats of Paolo Banchero shows that he's been one of the best forwards in this league, and yet he's still stuck in Orlando. The prospect of bringing in a Seattle native to help the Sonics win a chip was just too good for me to pass up. So I made some more trades to clear up cap space by trading away Davion Hanna and Musa Diabate off to Boston. In return, I got Devine Okochoku, a late first-round pick from the 2028 draft. I didn't really want to get anyone from this draft, so I also included both picks from this year's draft. I'm just too generous. The deal was done, and now that Diabate was traded away, that means that we don't have a single player left from the expansion draft. It was now time to sign Banchero. There were a lot of teams offering Paolo a deal, so I offered him as much money as I possibly could for 4 years with a player option to sweeten the deal. Banchero accepted, and now our salary cap was more cooked than ever. I gave an extension to McCain with a player option to save some money. Divine didn't want an extension, so there was a real possibility that a player that we just sent out 2 picks and 2 players for won't be on the team next year. Question my decisions all you want, I want to win now. I also decided to bring Nemhard back on a deal worth $60 million for 3 years with a player option. I also made one last move before the season started, which was to fire Nate McMillan after extending his contract just the year before. We are definitely a well-run franchise. Despite leading us to a 60-win season the year before, to make the finals, I think we'll need a better coach. So I just signed the best one available, Steve Kerr. I offered Nick Kurzad a contract worth $60 million for 5 years, which he accepted. This was basically the final form of this roster. Paolo was our starting 4. Everyone but Maya was maxed out. It'll be a real disappointment if we don't make the conference finals again. And if you're curious about Las Vegas, they're still mid. They had some random at point guard, and their core of Avdalas, Pete, Furphy, and Johnson were still present. We started the year off with a win against Phoenix. We met Las Vegas in our 10th game of the season, winning by over 36, with both Avdalas and Peterson almost getting triple doubles. We met again in our 30th game of the season, winning by 27 points this time, thanks to 32 from Brandon Miller. By the All-Star break, we held the 3rd best record in the league with 47 wins. Las Vegas, meanwhile, were down in the 13th seed in the West with only 21 wins. Both Banchero and Peterson were voted as All-Stars, and at the end of the season, season, we finished still with the third best record in the league with 63 wins and 19 losses. The Spurs leapfrogged Philly for the best record in the league with 74 wins. Las Vegas, while down in the 13th seed, did improve their record with 29 wins. We had 4 players on our roster that averaged 20 plus points, which is crazy. Mario averages a double-digit point tally with 10 points per game, and the bench was also scoring too, with Wilson averaging 14 and both McCain and Ware averaging 10. Las Vegas, meanwhile, largely the same story. Abdallas averages a career high 23 per game, along with 8 rebounds and 10 assists. Great season from him. And as for other players, Johnson averages 16, Keyshawn George averages 14, 8 and 2. Pete, another good season, averages 16. And taking a look at the rest of the roster, they picked up Pascal Siakam, but it looks like Johnny Furphy is gone, so that leaves Thomas Sorber as the only expansion draft player on their team. Peterson makes it into his 3rd straight appearance in both the All-Defensive and All-NBA team, and Kelal Ware wins this year's 6th Man of the Year award. We head into the playoffs facing the 7th seed Warriors, who have a starting lineup of AJ Mitchell, Trey McKinney, Keyshawn Murphy, Bilal Coulibaly, and Luther Beasley. We make quick work of them in Game 1, winning by 19 points behind a triple-double from Peterson. We win by a large margin yet again in Game 2, this time winning by 25 points. Peterson, our player of the game, gets 28, Miller gets 21, and the bench scores 43 points in total. We head over to Golden State for Game 3, where we win by yet another large margin, 150 to 115. Peterson gets 33 points and 17 assists. Halliburton gets 27, Miller gets 24, and the rest of the team combined for 66 points. We complete the sweep in Game 4, where the final score is 156 to 124. Paolo this time is our top performer in this game. Overall, it was a strong showing, and hopefully we can take this form into round 2, where we face the 3rd-seeded Thunder, who have a starting lineup of Shea, Cason Wallace, Jalen Williams, RJ Barrett, and Mohamed Salah. Kinda surprised that the team still looks kind of vanilla at this point in the save. Despite 40 points from Shea, we win by 12 points in Game 1 to start off the series. We followed up with another win in Game 2, this time winning by 12 points. Everyone on our starting 5 gets 10 plus points, and the bench combines for 31. Heading over to OKC for Game 3, we do lose our first game of the playoffs with a final score of 121 to 118. In Game 4, Shea goes off with a 48-point double-double, meaning the series is tied up 2-2, heading back to Seattle. We do get a win back in Game 5, winning by 12 behind 25 points from Paolo in a game where he also had 5 blocks. Heading into OKC for Game 6, we do manage to pull out a win by just 2 points as we close the series in 6. Paolo gets 28, Peterson gets 21 points and 12 assists, and our 6th Man of the Year gets 30 and 10 from the bench. We make it back-to-back conference finals appearances where we face the Spurs yet again. Their starting 5 remains the same, so we'll just have to hope our team is more prepared this time around. Despite 33 points and 12 assists from Halliburton, he gets a taste of his own medicine as the Spurs win Game 1 by a buzzer-beating layup from Jalen Johnson. In Game 2, despite a triple-double from Peterson, we lose again, this time by 6 points as we go down 2-0 heading into Game 3. Now back in Seattle, where hopefully we can bring one back, which we do, 141 to 125. Peterson, yet another near triple-double, gets the team over the line, 20 plus points from both Halliburton and Miller, and McCain gets 12 off the bench. Looking to tie the series up in Game 4, we unfortunately lose by a single point yet again. The bench actually got really involved in this game, but it wasn't enough, so we go back to San Antonio for Game 5, facing elimination, and we get blown out 144 to 107. Luka gets 31 points and 13 assists on his way to leading the Spurs back to the finals. And as for us, it's another loss in the conference finals, and another win for the Spurs as they make it back-to-back titles as Luka gets finals MVP for winning against Philly in the sweep. So pretty disappointing. We were a little closer against the Spurs this time around though. We could have taken 2 games in the series, but we lose again. So hopefully we can just run it back next year with this roster, win more games, make another conference finals, and see if we can get the job done and make the NBA finals. We were now into year 8 of the save. We got news that Halliburton accepted his player option, so that's good. I gave him an extension worth $30 million for 4 years plus a player option because I knew I'd need the extra cap space. A lot of our players are gonna want an extension next season, so I really needed all the money I could get. So knowing that, Nembhard's contract looked a lot less appealing. I'd rather just give Divine a new contract instead and play him instead of Nembhard off the bench, so I decided to trade him plus a second round pick from this year's draft to try and get some picks for the future. I just went and traded him to the team who was projected to get first overall in the draft, which was Miami, but funnily enough, they fell all the way down to the 5th pick. So I sent out Nembhard and our second round pick for both the first and second round pick for the 2035 draft. I still had my first round pick available for this year, so I decided to just pick up the highest rated player available, which was Carlos Sherman, a forward from Mississippi. I gave him and Divine new contract, and the roster was set. Pretty much the exact same lineup from last year, but Nembhard was out and we now had a new rookie. Las Vegas also pretty much looks the same as last year. They have a new starting point guard. Abdallas and Johnson are approaching their max potential. Pete is still there, and they have a pretty decent bench with Keyshawn George, Carter Bryant, and Thomas Sorber. We start off the season with a loss against Dallas, but we do win our next game. We met Las Vegas for the first time pretty late into the season. Game 56, we actually lost by 16 to a Venom team that seems to be doing a lot better. Only midway through the season, they're already pretty close to 500, which is a rare sight. We did take a win back from them just 2 games later, winning 114 to 92 by the All-Star break. We held the 4th best record in the league with 42 wins behind Milwaukee Milwaukee, who we were tied with, Spurs as the first seed with 49 wins, and Philly as good as ever with 52 wins. Las Vegas, meanwhile, are enjoying their best season yet, already tying up their highest win total with 29. And as for our All-Stars, both Halliburton and Peterson get selected for this season. We met the Venom one last time in the 63rd game of the season, winning by over 23 points. We finished with the exact same record as last season with 63 wins, which was the 4th best record in the league. Las Vegas, while missing out on the play-in, did have their best season yet with 39 wins, so they could actually make a postseason appearance next year. Halliburton and Peterson both averaged 20 plus points and 10 plus assists, and both Miller and Banchero averaged close to 20. Mayo averages 11 points and 10 rebounds, and both McCain and Wilson averaged double-digit points from the bench. The Venom starting 5 had some good seasons. Abdallah's 21, 7, and 10 plus 2 blocks per game. Jasper Johnson averages close to 20 points per game. Keyshawn George averages 16 and grabs 8 rebounds per game. Kova Pete averages 17, 7, and 1. They also picked up Jeremiah Pierce, and he averages 10 points for Las Vegas. Mayo gets into the all-defensive first team for the first time in his career, partnering Peterson, who also gets into the team along with making All-NBA yet again. Peterson was also this year's assist leader, and for the second consecutive year, we have a 6th Man of the Year winner, with Jared McCain winning the award this time around. We entered the playoffs facing against the 7th-seeded Denver Nuggets with a starting 5 of Scoot Henderson, Isaiah Pasha, Jackson Keith, Christian Braun, and Aaron Gordon before his trip to Turkey. Now, initially, I thought that this series would be easy, but Denver set the tone right away with an away win in Game 1 to start the series. We did come back in Game 2, winning by 50 behind the triple-double from Peterson. We went to Denver for Game 3, taking the lead of the series with a 23-point win from yet another triple-double from Peterson. But despite another triple-double from Peterson coming the next game in Game 4, the Nuggets were able to tie the series up after winning by 8 points. We took back the lead of the series as we headed back to Seattle for Game 5 thanks to another unreal performance from Peterson as he scores 31. But Denver pushed the series to 7 games with a home win by 8 to tie the series up. We were now on the brink of being eliminated by a 7th seed. Thankfully, we do avoid an early exit with a huge win by 48 points behind yet another triple-double from Peterson to send us to round 2. That was definitely a close call. I'm not at all comfortable with the team struggling this much in round 1, so hopefully we'll do better in round 2 against the Houston Rockets team that was the 3rd seed. They had a starting lineup of Amen Thompson, Con Knipple, Cam Boozer, Trey Kaufman-Wren, and Evan Mobley. They were a quality team all around, so this will be a tough series, but we won against the 3rd seed last year, so hopefully we can do it again. Houston humbled us on home court as they take a road win by over 13 points to start the series. Of course, we needed to bounce back in Game 2, but they ended up taking another win by 7 points. Now, having just lost both our home games, it was crucial that we take Game 3 to get back into the series, but would you believe it, we lose again 136 to 121 in Game 3 behind 35 points from Cam Boozer. Already, I thought it was over. We just lost 3 games in a row and there was basically no hope left. But in Game 4, we lose again. After making consecutive conference finals appearances, we fall in round 2 and our season is cut short yet again. What makes things worse is that Houston didn't even make the finals. The Spurs three-peated with Lucas winning finals MVP against Philly, who has also just made the finals in the last 3 years. They just weren't good enough. It was clear that the Spurs were number 1 in the West and we couldn't even hold our own against Houston or even a 7th seed in Denver. This is as good as this roster could get, and with our salary cap being filled to the brim, there weren't any moves I could do to make this team better. We just have to run it back the next year, the same exact squad, and just hope that this time things will fall into our favor. The offseason was quiet as we head into year 9. The only thing I needed to do was sort out our contract extensions. I first prioritized Peterson. He's our best player by far, having been there since year 2, so I needed him around to win a championship. I gave one to Perez as well, as he came in the same draft as Peterson and is one of our team's most experienced players. I also needed some good players off the bench, so that's why I gave him and Caleb Wilson an extension. Because of these extensions, that does mean we don't have enough cap space to extend Brandon Miller's contract, which is a shame. He's a starter and one of our main scorers, but he was in our 30s and the other players I gave extensions to were younger and more integral to this team, so this season will be Miller's last in Seattle. This is it. If we don't make it to the finals this year, our chances at the championship will be down in the drain if we don't get the job done. We had all-star talent across the roster, a superstar in Darren Peterson, and a coach in Steve Kerr who is a serial winner. Surely, this will be the year we finally get it done. We start the season with the win against Charlotte and we meet Las Vegas 22 games later, where we take a 6-point win behind 30 points from Peterson. Our next game against the Venom came in the 52nd game of the season, where we took the win by 45 points thanks to a near triple-double from Peterson. We met the Venom again just 2 games later and completed the regular season series sweep with another win by 52 points. By the All-Star break, we held the best record in the league with 50 wins, just one ahead of Philly out east. So while we were enjoying a good first half of the season, Las Vegas were as well, as they sat in the 10th seed with 30 wins. I think this is maybe the first time I've seen them with a winning record. Our staff was selected to coach the All-Star game, while Pearson was also selected as an All-Star. 2 players made an appearance in the 3-point contest, Tyrese Halliburton and Brandon Miller. By the end of the year, we secured the best record in the league, 71 wins, the most in Seattle's history. Las Vegas also finally makes a postseason appearance as they finish in the 9th seed with 43 wins. Peterson averages 23, 8, and 10. Mayo averages another double-double. Pretty much everyone else in our starting five gets close to averaging 20 plus points. Our bench is also pretty productive. Wilson averages 10. McCain, our 6th man of the year last season, averages 15. Meanwhile, on the Las Vegas squad, Abdallas averages 23, 6, and 9 in their best season yet. I didn't catch it earlier. Jeremiah Fierce averages 13. Koa Pete averages 16 points and 7 rebounds, while Keyshawn George averages 13 from the bench. And Jasper Johnson averages 17 points across the season, but it looks like he got injured heading into the play-in where they faced the 10th seeded Timberwolves. They win against Minnesota by 5 points behind 17 points and 14 rebounds from Abdallas. Thus now heading into the next game, they have to play against the Pelicans, where they do lose despite a 30-point double-double from Koa Pete. So shame that our fellow expansion team wasn't able to get into the playoffs, but at least they've been making progress and maybe they'll be able to get into the playoffs next year. As for the awards, Mayo gets into the all-defensive first team for the 2nd time in his career, partnering Peterson yet again as he makes his 5th appearance. It was actually quite a season for Peterson. He makes All-NBA yet again, he wins Clutch Player of the Year, and on top of all of that, he also takes home this year's Most Valuable Player award, making him Seattle's 2nd ever MVP. Now going into the playoffs, we actually end up facing against the Pelicans in round 1, so kind of a bummer since it would have meant that if Las Vegas won their game, we would have been facing off against them in round 1. New Orleans has a starting 5 of Braden Smith, LeBron Fellon Jr., Ruben Scott, Cooper Flagg, who seems to be determined to play for the worst teams in the NBA, and Yves Missy. Despite a near triple-double from Coop, we took home the win in Game 1, winning by over 17 points. Halliburton is our player of the game with 29 points and 9 assists. Peterson, our MVP, gets close to a triple-double. McCain also gets 19 points, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists from the bench, which is crazy. We win again in Game 2, despite by 6 points as our starting 5 goes off. We win by 10 going away to New Orleans for Game 3, where Mayo is our top performer this time with 17 points and 15 rebounds. Complete the sweep in Game 4, winning by 20 as Mayo is our top performer yet again, 20 points and 11 rebounds. McCain also gets 25 points from the bench, which is insane. So with that, we move on to round 2 pretty easily. Unfortunately, we faced the reigning champs in the Spurs, who again were also the team that knocked us out in the conference finals twice, but considering they were the 4th seed, we might actually have a chance against them this time around. In the first game, despite 31 from Luka, Peterson goes off and sets a new career playoff high with 41 points to take the win by 10. Considering how our other games usually go against the Spurs, this was a good way to start the series off. Game 2 took things even further with a 35-point blowout behind 29 and 11 from Seattle's own Paolo Banchero. We go away to San Antonio for Game 3, where we do suffer a pretty big loss behind a double-double from the 3-time Finals MVP. But in Game 4, we extended our lead in the series to 3-1 as we secure an away win. So our player of the game has to be Jared McCain, who in only 25 minutes in Game 4 scores 33 points. Now, granted, he did take 9 free throws, but he made every single one, and still, it's an insane performance from the bench. We go back home to Seattle, where we finally best the Spurs in Game 5 as we win by 27 on our way to our 3rd conference finals appearance, where we face, surprisingly, the 7th seeded Warriors from all the way from the play-in. They won 55 games in the regular season, so it's not like they're a bad team, but seeing a team from the play-in make it this far in the playoffs shows that they're a team in form, which is something you do not want to go against in the playoffs. Despite that though, in Game 1 we won by 3 points behind a near triple-double from Peterson. Halliburton also gets 31 points and 11 assists. In Game 2 we win by only 5 points behind 24 and 10 from Peterson, but as we go to Golden State with a 2-0 lead, we suffer our first loss of the series by a pretty big margin thanks to a triple-double from one of their players, Dalen Swain. Things get worse in Game 4 as we tank yet another loss as the Warriors tie the series up with a 3-point win. We do take the series lead back at home in Game 5, but with a chance to seal the series in Game 6, we lose by 10 as the Warriors force Game 7. But thankfully, as we go back to Seattle, Halliburton steps up as we win by 21 points to beat the Warriors and finally make the NBA Finals. We face the reigning Eastern Conference champions in Philadelphia, and the only thing left to do now, I actually haven't taken a look at Philly's roster in a bit, but after seeing it, I understand why they've made the finals in the last 4 years. They had Baldy Bronson, Anthony Edwards, Nate Ament, Nico Bundalo, and then Nikola Jokic, where despite being in his 40s, is still averaging 23 points per game in the playoffs. Despite having home court, we lost Game 1 by 9 points behind the 31-point performance from Ant. We do get a win back in Game 2 just by 4 points to tie the series, despite Nate Ament from Philly scoring 46. We then head over to Philly for Game 3, where we lose yet again, this time by 18 as Ament goes off for 33, but we do tie the series 2-2 as we win by 17 points in Game 4 to keep us in the fight. Shout out to McCain, 26, 7, and 5 from the bench helped secure this one, and now back home in Seattle, we take the lead in the series with an 8-point win. Miller gets 28, Peterson 18, and 14 assists, and Caleb Wilson scores 24 from the bench despite getting an injury. We now had the chance to close out the series in Game 6. We just had to go through one last quarter. So we enter with about 8 minutes and 30 seconds left in the game. McCain, Peterson, Wilson, just the regular starting starting five. Stevens lays it up over Perez. Philly have a 3-point lead, but we could take it back here with this possession. Peterson shoots a 3. Okay. Stevens brings it. Ament passes it up to Stevens, to Doyle, who gets fouled on the shot. Halliburton subs in for McCain as Doyle takes his free throw. He misses. All right. Halliburton takes the tough mid-range shot, makes it. All right, I would have preferred a 3 there, but I'm not going to complain. Jokic, 40 years old, by the way. Don't know why he's still on the court. Okay, he lays it up. All right, whatever. Peterson up in the perimeter, passes it in. Perez, Wilson, posts up, lays it in. Okay. I would have preferred if that shot went in, but oh, we get possession back though. All right, that's good. Halliburton under the perimeter being guarded by Baldy Brunson. Banchero posts up Bundalo. Pass it out to Miller. All right, man. Look at them. Jalen Brunson with that ball head. Jokic, mid-range, hits the rim, doesn't go in. Banchero gets fouled on a 3-point shot. He makes it. That means he has a chance to convert this into a 4-point play. That was really impressive. He's shooting 83% from this season. This is basically like... I was gonna say that's basically in, but he just missed it, so I'm not gonna complain. That was a huge shot, but could have made that free throw too. Jokic posts up, doesn't convert. Okay, that was a little surprising. Banchero sets a screen, he drives in, spins around. Banchero, another 3. He makes it. We now have a 1-point lead. Banchero hitting 2 shots, 2 pretty huge shots. He's shooting 5 for 9 this game right now with a 55% 3-point percentage. He's been shooting the lights out so far this game. Nate Ament pump fakes, doesn't make the mid-range shot. Posts up on Jokic, passes it out to Brandon Miller. Corner 3. It's in. All right, we're actually starting to hit our shots now. Brandon Miller shooting 4 for 9 from 3. Good game from him as well. Jokic, offensive foul. Actually never seen that in this game before. Peterson on the perimeter. Banchero sets a screen yet again. Goes in. Passes it out to Banchero again. Another 3-point shot. Misses this time. Halliburton guarding Brunson on the perimeter. Passes it out to Ant. Takes a shot, but Peterson blocks it. Up to Miller. Banchero for the lay-in. Nice play there. About 5 minutes to go. We've managed to recover. Extended our lead to 6 points. Ant misses the mid-range there. Halliburton sets a screen for our center. Goes in, lays it in. Very nice. Nico Modalo being guarded by Banchero. Spins in, pushes him off. Alright. Peterson passes it out to Banchero. Corner 3. Doesn't make the shot. Jokic passes it out to Brunson. Tough mid-range shot. Yeah, that's just Brunson, man. He always does that. So he misses the hook shot being guarded by Jokic. 4 minutes to go. Lead is down to 4. And sets a screen for Jokic. Drives in. Moving that old man body around. Misses the layup. Alright. Why are we still letting this grandpa on the court? Banchero gets fouled on a shot. He did miss his free throw earlier, so hopefully he can make up for that. Alright. Okay. If he doesn't make this next one, this is actually going to be just like... Alright, never mind. Disregard that. Bundalo posting up Banchero in the paint. Passes it out. Nate Ament gets the ball back after being stripped from his jump shot, but he misses the mid-range shot. About 4 minutes to go. Have a 5-point lead. Banchero sets another screen for Halliburton. Passes it out. Miller, step back shot. That was off, but Maya gets the rebound, passes it out to Halliburton. Banchero passes it back to Halliburton. Deep mid-range shot. And doesn't go in. 3.5 minutes to go, and bringing the ball up. Ament makes a tough lay-in. Lead is down to 3 points. Philly is very much still in this game. Just have to... smooth sailing from here. Okay, well that I don't know what that was. Nate Ament driving in from the screen, makes the layup. It is now down to a 1-point lead with 3 minutes to go. Halliburton passes it up to Mayo. Backhanded layup. That was really good. And on the perimeter, passes it into Jokic. Hook shot. Doesn't fall. Banchero gets the rebound. I don't know really. Miller got it first, but Halliburton takes another tough mid-range shot, but he makes it this time. Really would prefer if he just took a few steps back, just start scoring some threes, but can't complain. I meant wide open 3. Where's the defense on that? He was literally on 53% coverage. That is as open can get in this game. Peterson up to Banchero. Okay, that was a really nice play. Banchero's definitely been our best player so far this game. And misses the shot. Lead is up to 4 with 2 minutes remaining. Bancaro sets another screen. Halliburton steps back, passes it up to Bancaro, who sends it back to Halliburton. Gets fouled on a shot, but that was a pretty nasty block. VJ Edgecombe gets on the court for Philly as Halliburton makes his first free throw. And Halliburton makes his second. Corner 3. Sinks it in. 3-point lead. Peterson cross court to Halliburton for the 3. Doesn't make it. Bancaro gets a touch there, but Ament gets the rebound. 1.5 minutes to go. Philly's still very much in it with 3 points. Just trading by 3 points. Brunson gets the ball on the corner. Corner 3 doesn't fall. 1 minute, 17 seconds left. We get possession. It'd be really nice if we just, held the ball. Don't take a shot. Halliburton, what are you doing? What did I just say? He gets bumped into his own teammate. Turns and spins around for the shot. What are we doing? Ament steps back. Tough mid-range. Doesn't make it. We don't have to do anything stupid. Mayo passes it back to Halliburton on the perimeter. Takes another tough mid-range shot. Oh my god. We could actually fumble this game. Edgecombe won the finals MVP in this save. Nico Bundalo with the lane, and it's down to just a 1-point lead. With less than 40 seconds remaining, Halliburton setting a play. Mayo up to Bancaro, pushes Bundalo off, makes a huge layup. 30 points for him. 3-point lead with less than 30 seconds remaining. Philly are gonna look to hold on to the ball as much as possible here. Brunson, that might have sealed. Oh, they actually get the rebound. I didn't notice that. Brunson again, corner 3. Then that was... Okay, Brunson, what has happened? Did your clutch scoring go away with those luscious locks? Misses 2 clutch shots. I'm not gonna talk about that missed free throw. Oh my god, he missed both free. Brunson just missed 2 shots, and they still might actually win this game. 10 seconds remaining. Jokic standing still. Nate Ament from corner 3. Bancaro gets the rebound, gets fouled. Miller gets fouled. 4 seconds remaining. He's been perfect this game, and from the free throw line. Oh my gosh. Yeah, you just have to make this one. There it is. That's the dagger. Unless Hoopland pulls off something crazy and Philly get a 4-point play. I'm gonna be real pissed, but Aman gets the ball. 3 points. It's over. Steps back. Not enough for a 3, even if he made that. It's over. Seattle win in Game 6 by 4 points, 127 to 123. Finally, after 9 seasons since returning to the NBA, the Supersonics are NBA champions. What a journey it has been. Bancaro, this closeout game has been great. 30 points, just great beyond the 3-point line. Brandon Miller, 24 points on his way out, but he does leave with a championship. Tyrese Halliburton, 19 points, 10 assists. Darren Peterson, 13 points, 13 assists, and the bench did its job. We managed to get the job done. None of our players actually win the finals MVP. It actually goes to Philly's Nate Ament. So that's probably like what, the second time it only happened in NBA history that the losing team has the finals MVP. But yeah, it was pretty huge in that game. He also scored like a 40 plus points in the game one time, scored 33 or something in like a previous game. So yep, that's it. Seattle, after 9 seasons since returning to the NBA, are champions once again. I thought for a moment their championship window was about to be slammed shut, but no. With this roster we built across the save, we managed to get the job done, make the finals, win finally, breaking the Spurs win streak. So that ends the challenge. We finally achieved our goal of winning the championship. So thank you for watching. If you made it this far, that's great. Probably should have spent your time watching something else, but I appreciate it. If you want to show your support for this channel, go ahead, check out some of my other videos, and goodbye.